Okay, hello guys. So we will be starting Python today. So we are going to cover a lots of functions and a lots of concept in Python. So first of all, what we are going to do, let me tell you, some basics of Python. So first one is the print function. So with the help of print function, you can print something in the console. Right now, I'm using the REPL.IDE. It's the online IDE, integrated development environment. We have Python IDLE also available. That is the Python development and learning environment. We won't be using right now because we have the online IDE. Basically, in an online IDE, you can try writing your code online. You can try running your code online. So here we have the file explorer section where you can see the list of all the files available. In the middle section, you can write your code. In the console window, you will be able to see the output of your code. And with the help of this run button, you will be able to try running your program. So let's continue. So if you want to print something in the console window, so you need to use the print function. You need to use the double inverted commas and the brackets. So you can write here like my introduction, and whatever you write here will be printed as it is in the console window. So it is printed here. So you can further write points about yourself like my name is Happy. Okay. So this way, but now if I try running my program, the problem is the content is printed in the same line. So if you want to print it in the new line, so you can use the /n operator. And if now I try running the code, now it's printed in the new line. Also, I want this my introduction in the middle. So what I can do is I can use the /t. /t is for the tab space, and I'm using the backward the slash here. So it will provide indentation or basically four spaces. So I can use multiple /t. So it will, bring this my introduction in the center as a heading. Now let's say I add second point. Let's say I say here I like Rohan's painting. So it will print the second point in the new line. But the problem here is like if you use the single quote, single inverted commas as the opening and closing inverted commas, then it will throw an error because Python is now confused. Like for every opening inverted comma, you should have a closing inverted comma. But Python is confused. Like for this one is the closing one. But this S painting is now Python is confused. What kind of a content is this? So we have, if you put a single backward slash here, so it will treat it as a escape character and it will print like I like Rohan's painting, this post of SS as it is. And let me use a /n here so that it will print it in the new line. Okay. So, and now next is the variables in Python. Like in your house, if you want to store something, you use boxes in the kitchen to store spices, right? So like boxes of different sizes in the house to store different items, like you use almirah to store clothes, right? So similarly here in Python also, like if you want to store something, we have something like variables. So you can treat these variables as boxes in your house. So you need to take care of two things, like the content stored in your box and the name of the box, right? So what will happen, as soon as you create a variable, a box will be created in the memory, and you need to take care of two things, the content stored inside the box and the name of the box. Okay, so these boxes, we call them as variables in Python. So first of all, we will see all the rules for naming a variable. So the first rule is you can use any letter, you can use numbers in your variable name. Let's say I create a simple variable here, let's say name equal to. So now this way you can create a variable, you can write your name 123 also, and you can save any name here. So this way you can create a variable. But the rule is that your variable name must start with the alphabet, it should not start with a number. So instead of name 123, if you try creating a variable 12 name equal to something, then it will throw an error. Why? Because the variable name cannot start with a number, it should start with a this thing, this alphabet only. Okay, now the second rule is if you try writing here like my name equal to something, then it will throw an error because you cannot use spaces in your variable name, and you cannot use any special character other than underscore in your variable name. Okay, and the third rule is that you cannot use any keyword as a variable name in your program. So let me show you all the keywords. So if you in console type here help, And if I write here keywords, so basically it will show me the list of all the keywords available in Python. So this false, none, true, pass, continue, class, def, del, elif, else, except, finally. So all of these are the keywords. You cannot use them as a variable name. So if I creating a variable here def equal to something, then it will throw an error. Okay, because def is a keyword and you cannot use a keyword as a variable name. Now the next thing is the content stored inside a variable. Now we need to take care of what kind of a content we are storing inside a variable. Let's say I create a variable a is equal to 2. Now Python will automatically detect that it is an integer. So if you try printing a, and we have a type function. So if I write a type a, so it will print the value of a and the type of a. So, and also let me comment this first line. So you can select the code and you can use control forward slash to comment something, even in Python, whether it's JavaScript, HTML, CSS, whatever it is. If you want to comment something, simply select the code and use the control forward slash. Then here, so like I'm printing here variable a and the data type of a. So let me try running it again. So it is printing 2 and class int. So it is saying 2 is an integer. Now next data type is the floating point number. So any decimal number, we call it as a floating point number in any programming language. So now if I try running my code, so it is printing class float here. Okay. So and next data type is we have strings. So any plain text, whether numbers, spaces, any special character, whatever you type inside the double inverted comma will be treated as the string data type. So now if I try printing this B, and the type of B, then it will print the value of B and strB. So it will say class str. So str is the short form for the string. Okay. Now, after all this, we have another data type, that is the Boolean data type. So Boolean data type is basically used to store some sort of a condition. Okay. Let's say I have a condition 12 less than 56. Okay. Now, this 12 less than 56 is a condition. It can be either true or it can be the false. So now if I try printing this A, so it will print basically true because this it's a true condition. If I make it false, then it will print false here. So it is printing false here. And if I check the type of this A, so it will tell me the data type, that is it will print class bool. It means like this A is of Boolean data type. Okay. So after Boolean data type, we have conditionals. Like let's say if you have a condition, like if you want to check something, like if you want to execute a certain amount of code, if your condition is true, and if you want to execute a particular part of your code, if your condition is false. So for that purpose, we have conditionals in any programming language. In Python also we have conditionals. So if you write here if, then you can write a condition here, then you can use colons, then you can press enter, and then you can write whatever you want to write. In Pythons, there is a very important role of indentation. So but now after using this colon and pressing enter, whatever I write with indentation will be treated as a part of the if statement. You see here, a is of Boolean data type, so I can use a also as a condition here, because this condition needs to be of Boolean data type. It can be either true or it can be either false. Even you can directly write here true, then doesn't matter, whatever you write here will be executed because the condition is true. So let me show you an example. Let's say if I add another condition, something like this. Now obviously let me make this condition as true. Now let's say if I say here print true condition, then it is going to print here true condition. So if I try running the code, so it is printing true condition. And if I make this condition is false, then it won't print anything. Okay, like it's printing nothing. Now let's say I want to print something. If the condition is false also, then for that purpose we have a else. So whatever you write inside the else will be executed if the condition is false. So I will say here false condition. Okay, so this way, now if I try running my code, so it is printing here false condition. Now let's say right now we are dealing with only one condition, like one single condition. Okay, so now let's say we have multiple conditions. It means like more than one conditions. So let me show you some examples. Let's say we have one more condition. Let's say 34 greater than this, then something like this. Okay, so what you can do is you can merge multiple conditions with the help of and keyword. So what will basically happen here? So if I try printing a, now if all the three conditions are true, then and then only true will be saved inside this variable a. If any single condition is false, if any single condition is false, it will print false here. Now this first condition is true, second condition is false, third condition is true, so it will print false here. Okay, so let me make the second condition also true. Now all the three conditions are true, so it will print true here in the console. So basically it is printing true here. So this way what is happening here, so it will check for all the three conditions. If all the three conditions are true, then only it will print true. If any single condition is false, it doesn't matter, one condition is false, two conditions are false, or all the three conditions are false, it will print false here. Okay, now similar to this and operator, we have or operator that is exactly opposite of and operator. So if I use here or, then what will happen, it will print false only and only if all the three conditions are false. Okay, if any single condition is true, it is going to print true here. Okay, so right now all the three conditions are, I guess, true. So if I try running the code, it is printing true. If I make the second condition is false, then also it is going to print here true. So it is going to print false only and only if all the three conditions are false. Okay, so now if I try running the code, now it is going to print false because all the three conditions are false right now. Okay. So this is one way to merge conditions. In conditional statement also, we have a way to merge conditions. Let's say we have, more than one condition. Okay. Let's say your simple grading system. Okay. So one more thing is here in Python, we have a input function with the help of which you can take something as input from the user. Let's say your marks, let's say you want to take marks, or let's say age, or if you want to take anything at all input from the user. For that purpose we have a input function. Now inside input function you can say enter anything. Now this message will be printed in the console, so you can write a console message inside the input function. So now if I try running the code, and also let me try here printing this a, and let me comment this line. So now if I try running the code, and if I enter here anything, so and press enter, so this value is saved inside this a variable. So if I try checking the type of this a variable, it is going to print str. Why? Because doesn't matter whether you use numbers or alphabets, the input function is always going to store the value as of string data type. Okay, but you can convert a string data type into integer data type if the all the values are numerical. So if you write here a equal to int a, now this a will be converted into integer data type. And if you try running the code, so now the REPL is a little bit hang. Let's try again. So basically now it is going to show that integer data type. Okay, now this 6543 will be treated as the integer data type. Okay, so now let's continue. And also you can use this int operation within the same line. Yeah, now it's running. So if I press enter, so 543, it is saying class int. Okay, so why we require to convert it into integer data type? Because the mathematical operations works differently on integers and strings. So if I write here 12 multiplied by 5, so it will give me 60, because it will give me the normal multiplication. But if I write here 12 as a string data type, and then if I multiply it with by 5, and let me use a space also, then it will concatenate a 12 5 times. So it is printing 12, 12, 12, 12, 12. Okay. So multiplication will behave differently with string data type, but it will behave differently in integer data type. That is why we need to need the type convergence. Okay, because we're gonna need to perform some mathematical operations on the input value, then we need to convert it into integer data type. Okay, after this, yeah, now let's start with the multiple conditions. Okay, so now let's say I'm gonna take marks as the input from the users, and let's create a simple report card. So let me remove this, and also I'm going to convert it into integer within the same line. Okay, so that, yeah. So now I can add a condition like if my marks are, let's say, greater than 90 and my marks are basically less than, let's say, 100. Okay. And let's say I want to print like grade A. Okay. Then now if I want to add second condition, then for that purpose we have elif. Now I'm gonna use the elif and then I need to add the second condition. Okay. Then I need to write here marks greater than 80 and let's say less than 90. Okay, then what I want to do, let's say then I want to print your grade is B. Okay, so this way you can keep adding on the conditions, as many as conditions you want to add. Now let's say I'm gonna add a else condition here in the end and I want to print you are fail. So what I'm doing here, like if the marks are less than like 80, then I want to print you are fail. Okay, so it's a simple condition. If a marks, so what is happening here? I'm using the AND operator. If this condition is true and this condition is true, if both the conditions are true, then overall condition will be true, and then this statement will be executed. Like it will print grade A. If this condition is false, if this condition is false, then and then only it is going to check the next condition written in the elif part. So if this condition is true, then it will do this. If this condition is false, then it will go to the next elif condition. And if all the if and elif conditions are false, then it will do whatever is written inside the else block. Okay. So now if you try running the code, it is saying enter anything. We can say here enter your marks also. So like if I say here enter marks and if I try running the code again, so if I enter here, let's say 94, it will print grade A. So if I print here, let's say 60, so it will print you are failed, because for marks other than between 90 and 100 and 80 and 90, it will say you are failed. Okay. Now if I try running the code again, let's say if I say 120, then also it will say you are failed. So what I can do, I can add one more condition, else if marks are greater than 100, if marks are greater than 100, I can print invalid marks. Okay. So now if you enter marks greater than 100, then it will print invalid marks. Now if I try running the code again, now this time let's say I enter here 80. Now what it will print? It will print you are failed. Why? Because here I'm not using the equal to sign. So if I use the equal to sign, I need to use the equal to sign also, because a less than sign will only check if the value is less than. But if the value, if I say here 80 less than 80, then it will print false. Okay. And if you use here 80 less than equal to 80, then only it will print true here. Okay. So this way you can use multiple conditions here. Okay. I guess all of these things are clear. Let me clear the whole screen. Now let's start with the loops. Okay. Now let's say you want to do something repeated. Okay, let's say you want to do something 100 times or 1,000 times. Let's say you want to print hello hello 100 times, so let's say 10 times. Okay, so if I say manually, if I need to do it, how I'm gonna do it? I need to write here print hello like 10 times, so let's say 100 times. Okay, I need to use print hello again and again. The one method is that you can use here like multiplied by 10. Like for a simple string, you can find such solution. Like if you want to print hello 10 times, you can use a slash in every time, and if you try running this code, it will print hello 10 times every time in a new line. But this is not the case for every situation. You cannot find such a solution for like integers. Let's say you want to print the integers from 1 to 100. Okay, so for that purpose we gonna require the loops. So we have basically while loop and for loop. We will be covering while and for loop right now. So let's say in while loop, you need to take care of three things: the initial statement, the initial condition, the main condition, and the update statement. Let's say I create a variable here, I equal to 0. Now let's say I add a condition while I is less than, let's say, 10. Then I want to print hello. Okay, so now what is going to happen? Now initially I is 0. Now it is going to check if the I is less than 10 or not. If the condition is true, then it will print hello. Then it will check this condition again. If this condition is true, then it will print hello again. Then it is going to check this condition again, and it is going to keep checking this condition unless and until this condition is false. Okay, and it will keep doing whatever is written inside the while loop. So now if I try running the code, it is printing hello infinite times. Why? because I is 0 and 0 is always going to be less than 10. Okay, so now it is print, now it's an infinite loop, so it is printing this thing infinite times. Now to solve this infinite problem, what we need to do, we need to add a update statement. I'm going to increase the value of I by 1 every time I'm gonna run the loop. So now initially the value of I is 0, then 0 is less than 10, so it will print hello. Then it will increase the value of I by 1, then 1 is less than 10, so it will print hello again. So basically it will print hello 10 times here. Okay, so this way the loops are working. So the initial condition you need to provide. Now the first iteration will go according to the initial condition. Like here I equal to 0. If you say here 0 is less than 10, so the condition is true and it will print hello. Then I is updated or I is in the value of I is increased by 1. So now it is like 1. So 1 is less than 10. That is also true. So it is printing hello again. So this way, it will print hello 10 times. Now, instead of this hello, let's say I print here I. Okay. Now what is happening? Now it is going to print the value of I. Why? Look here. Like initially I is 0, 0 less than 10. So it is printing 0 here. Then it is increasing the value of I by 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. So 1 less than 10 true. Then it is printing 1 because in I the value 1 is stored. Now then 2 is printed and so on till the value 9, because 10 less than 10 is false. So as soon as my condition is false, it will terminate the loop. Okay. Now what next I can do is, now let's say I multiply this I with 5. Then what will happen? It will simply print the table of 5. So it is printing the table of 5. For table of 5, I need to write here 1 and here 11. So now it will print the table of 5. Now if I write here 12, then it will print the table of 12. So this way, it will print the table of number, whatever you write here. Why? Because in this I, the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are stored. Okay. So one by one, those values are getting executed. And if you multiply all of those values by 12, it will simply give you the table of 12, right? So this way you can you can have the table of 12 or any number. Okay. Now let's say you want to find the factor of a number. Okay, now we are going to start something new concept. Okay, now let's say you want to find the factor of a number. Okay, now what are factors of a number? Let's say 12. Okay, so now what are the factors of 12? Okay, so what you need to do, so till 1 to 11 you need to divide 12 by all the integers and you need to see if the remainder is 0 or not. So for example, for 12, if you divide 12 by 1, the remainder is 0, so 1 is a factor. Then you need to 12 by 2, the remainder is 0, so 2 is a factor. Then for 3, if you divide 12 by 3, the remainder is 0, so 3 is also a factor. Similarly, 4 is a factor. But if you divide 12 by 5, the remainder will not be 0, so 5 is not a factor. 6 is a factor. Then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 are not the factors of 12 because the remainder won't be 0. Okay. So let me create a variable num and I'm saving a value 12 here. Now I want to find the number of factors for 12, or let's say factors of 12 simply. So now what I need, first of all, I'm going to need the counting from 1 to 11. Okay. So instead of writing here I less than 11, I can write here I less than 9. Now what will happen? Now it will simply print the counting from 1 to 11. Now I'm having access to the counting from 1 to 11. Okay. Now what next I want to do? I want to divide all of these numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4 to 11 with 12. Okay. First I will divide 12 by 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, and then the till 11. So I'll simply write here if num modulo I. Okay, in num the value is 12. In I, all of these values are coming like 1, 2, 3, 4 till 11. Okay, and if this is equal to 0, then what I want to do, then only I want to print I. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this 12 by 1. If the remainder is 0, then only 1 will be printed. Then I'm going to divide this 12 by 2. Then if the remainder is 0, then only 2 will be printed. Okay, so if the remainder is not 0, that number will not be printed. So now if I try running the code, now only the factors of 12 are printed, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. All the factors are printed here. Any other value is not printed here. Okay, now what you can do, you can take something as an input from the user, and then you can find the factors for that number. So you can say here enter any number. Okay, now whatever the number user is going to enter, it is going to print the factors for that number. So if I, let's say here 23, So for 23, the factor is only one, so it is printing one here. Let's say for 30. So it is for 30, it is printing all the factors of 30, right? So I guess till now everything is clear. You can pause and go through the code, like how the iterations are working. Simply, if I need to find the factors of 30, then what I'm doing here, dividing this 30 from with all the numbers from 1 to 29. I'm first dividing this 30 by 1. If the remainder is 0, then I'm printing 1, then 2, then 3. If I divide 30 by 4, the remainder will not be 0, so I'm not printing 4. So I'm dividing this 30 by all the numbers from 1 till 29. So that's how I'm printing the factors. Okay. Now let's say I want to find the count of these factors. Let's say I want to find the count of these factors. What I can do, I can simply create a variable c, and I'm storing 0. So this c variable is going to keep track of the count. Every time I'm going to find a factor, I'm going to increase the value of c by 1. That's how you count something. Like as soon as I found 1, I will increase the value of c by 1. Then for 2, it will be 2. Then for 3, it will be 3. Then for 5, it will be 4. So every time I'm finding a factor, I'm increasing the value of c by 1. So that's how you count something, right? So then in the end of the loop, I can print here count, and then I can print the value of c. Okay. So now if I try running my program, so let's say if I say here 12, so it is saying 5 because the count of factors is 5. We have 5 factors here. So it is printing 5 here. Now let's try running the code again. This time, let's say 30. So it is saying 7 because the count of factors is 7. Okay. Now, similarly, you can find sum. Let's say for sum, I create a variable s equal to 0. Now, every time I'm going to found a factor, I'm going to increase the value of sum by the value of factor. Like in count, I'm adding 1 every time I'm finding a factor, but in sum I'm going to add the value of the factor. Okay, like if I is a factor, I'm going to add the value of I in the sum. Like if 1 is a factor, 1 will be added to the sum. If 2 is a factor, 2 will be added to the sum. If 3 is a factor, 3 will be added as a sum. So now in this if condition, it will enter in this if condition if I is a factor, then and then only it will enter inside this if condition. Now only those i's will be added to s. Those are the factors of the number we are finding, right? So now I can simply print here, print sum, let's say s. So now if I try running the code, now let's say for 12, so it is saying the count is 5 and the sum is 16. Now let's try running the code again. This time let's say 24. So it is saying the count is 7, sum is 36. Okay. Now what are prime numbers? Prime numbers are those numbers which are divisible by itself or by 1 only. Okay. So basically you can say those numbers whose count is 1. Okay, those are the prime numbers. So now what I can do, I can add a if condition here, that if c is equal to 1, then I can print here that it's a prime number. So I can print here prime number. Okay, and if, and then I can add a else condition, else. Okay, I can say here comma true, and else I can say false. So here, let me copy paste this. Here I can say false. Okay, now let's try running the program again. So if I say here 12, so it is saying it's not a prime number because it is having more than one factors. Now let's try running it again. Let's say 23. So it is saying prime number 2 because it is only having one factor. Okay, now let's try running it again. So let's say 28. Okay, so now it is saying count is 5, sum is 28. It's not a prime number. You see here something like the sum of these numbers, the sum of factors for of 28 is 28, the number itself. Okay, so these kind of numbers we call them as the perfect numbers. Okay, so the numbers where the sum of factors is equal to the actual number, we call them as the perfect numbers. So I can copy this thing again, and instead of c, I can compare here with the s, and I can write here if s is equal, the sum is equal to the original number, then here I can say perfect number. So I can say here perfect number, and let me change this to also perfect number. Okay, now let's try running the code again. So if I enter here 28, so it is saying these are the factors, count is 5, sum is 28. It's not a prime number, but it's a perfect number. You can find it for, let's say, 496, 496 is also a perfect number. So it is saying true because these are the factors for 496. Count is 9. Sum is 496. Prime number false. Perfect number true. Now let's try running the code again. If you enter 24, so it is saying false, false. 36 sum, 7 as the count of factors. Okay. So I guess this much part is clear. So now let's move on to the next part, that is functions. Let me comment this thing. Okay. So till now we have used a lots of okay. Before that, let me tell you the syntax for for loop also. Like there is one more loop in Python, that is the for loop. So how to use a for loop in Python? So the syntax is for I in. You need to use any sequence here. The sequence here can be a list. So you can use a list. Then let's say I say here print I. So now what is going to happen? Now these values will be stored one by one in this I, and then the loop will be executed. Initially in I, the value 22 will be saved and the loop will be executed. Then in I, value 2 will be saved and the loop will be executed. Then value 3 will be saved in I and the loop will be executed. So it is basically printing I. So it is going to print the list as it is. Similarly, you can use a tuple here. So if you use the tuple, then also it will do the same. So it will simply print these values. And then if you use the set here, then also it will do the same. Also, you can use a string here, then it will print the values of this string as it is here. Okay. So it is printing the value of these this string as it is in here. So here you need to use a sequence. We have a range function also. Like if you want the sequence of integers, let's say if I say here 1 comma 50, then what will happen? This range function will return the list of all the or an object of all the integers from 1 till 49. Okay. So in I, the values of integers will be saved. First 1 will be saved in I, then 2 will be saved in I, then 3 will be saved in I, then 4 will be saved in I. So you see here, it is printing the counting from 1 till 49. Okay. So that's how the things are saved. That's how the range function is working here. Now, the same thing you can do with the help of this for loop also. Like if I paste this same code here, okay, like finding the factors. Okay. So it will work absolutely fine. Okay. So what we are doing here, so we are simply writing here if num modulo I equal to 0. Also I need to use num here and I need to uncomment the value where I'm taking num as input. So now it will work fine. So now what is happening here? So if I try running the code, if I enter 12 here, let me do one more thing. Let me first show you. If I write here print, okay, so now what will happen? So let me clear the console. If I try running the code, it is saying enter number. If I write 12 here, so it is printing the counting from 1 to 11. Why? Because I'm printing this I only. Okay. So this range function will basically return these integers. Okay. So if I'm writing here 1 comma num, now I'm entering 12 here. So in num 12 is saved. Okay. So now what is happening? Now initially in I, 1 will be saved, then 2 will be saved, then 3 will be saved till 11. All the values will be saved here in I. Okay. So if I write here num comma 11, then it will print the counting from 1 to 10. So let me comment this line again. So if I run my code now, so it will print 1 till 10. So if I multiply it with any number, then it will print the table for that number. So you can do all the same things with the help of for loops also. You can print table of any number. And then let's again find the number of factors. And let me uncomment this line. If I use a tab here and if I write here 1 comma num, so and let me uncomment this line again. So now if I try running my code and if I say here 24, it will basically print 24 here. So what is the benefit of using for loop? Like here in while loop, we need to take care of three things: the initialization condition, main condition, update statement. But here in for loop, what you can do, you can simply use the range function. It will handle all the three things: initialization condition, the main condition, and the update statement. You can simply use the range function here, or you can use any list here or any sequence here in general. Okay. So that's how the for loop works in Python. So if you are writing here for I in range 1 comma num, so in I, all the integer values will be stored between 1 comma num minus 1. Okay. So that's how the for loop works here in Python. Okay. So now let me comment this code and let's start with the functions. Okay. Now what is a function? So like till now we encountered with a lots of functions, like there is print function, range function, like in data structures we have for list we have dot append function, insert function, remove function. Okay, we have so many functions in Python. Okay, so what is the purpose of a function? Like the purpose is that you write your code once and then you can reuse your code as many as times we want to use it. Let's say I create a function def, let's say hello. Okay, and this function will simply print hello here. Okay, so now if I try running my code, nothing will happen. It won't print hello here in the console. Now what is happening here? Like any other function, range function will do its work only and only when I use this function. Similarly here, it will print hello only and only if I use this function say hello here. So if I call this function say hello, now it is going to print here hello here in the console window. Okay, so if I want to print hello one more time, then I need to call this function one more time. So now it is going to print here hello hello twice. Okay, so that's how you create a function. Let me show you one more example. Earlier we created a program to like count the factors. So we can create here a function to count the factors of number. So I say count factors. I'm creating a function here count factors. Okay, and one more thing is here, like naming a function or naming a list, naming a tuple or naming a variable. The rules will always be same. You cannot use spaces, you cannot use keyword, you cannot use any special character. Okay, and now let's say for counting the factors, let me paste the same code here. So for counting the factors, basically this one is the code. So I can copy this code and then I can paste it here as it is. Let me uncomment these things and let me remove the extra things. Okay, we don't need the sum variable. So, and also you need to write everything with indentation. And in this function, I'm going to pass the value num. So now this num value will be passed inside this function. And I need to create this I equal to 1 also. Let me remove this sum from here. Okay, so now I created a function count factors, and in the end here I can say print c. Let's say I can say here print count then comma c. Okay, so now if I try running the code, nothing is happening. Now nothing is happening. Now if I call this function, let's say if I say here count factors, and if I pass a value 12, then it will print the count of this 5. So for 12 we have 5 factors. If I pass a different value here, let's say 24, now this 20 now the count for 24 is 7. For 24 we have 7 factors. So what is happening here? Now I just created a function for counting a factor. Okay, now if this part is hidden, you can treat it as like there is a function count factors. You don't know how it counts the factors, but it simply will give you the count of factors. Okay, it will print the count of factors. If you pass any integer value in this function, it is going to print the count of factors. So this way you can define your functions. Okay, now let's say here also you can print the value of this num also, so that you can see, like for 24 the count of factors is 7. Okay, 24 count is 7. Okay, and you can say here count of factors. Okay, now let's say I want to print the count of factors from all the numbers till one, from 1 till 100. Okay, now what you can do? Now it's very simple. You remember, if I wanted to print hello 10 times, I run a loop. So here also I can run a loop. I can say here for I in range 1 comma 101, and then I can call this function, but this time with the value I. Okay, now what is happening? First in I the value 1 will be saved, then this function will be called with the value 1, count factors 1. Then in I value 2 will be saved, then this function will be called for the value 2. So this way in I all the values from 1 till 100 will be saved, and you will be able to find count of factors from 1 till 100. Now if I try running the code, so you see here it is printing the count of factors for each and every number from 1 till 100. Okay, so for 100 we have 8 factors, for let's say 85 we have 3 factors. So this way it is printing the count of factors for all the numbers from 1 till 100. Okay, let me comment this code. Similarly, you can create a function for sum of factors. Okay, here also I need to pass a value. Now let me paste this same code again and let me make required changes. Let me make this C to S, and here also S and plus I, and here I'll say sum of factors, and here I need to print S here. So now also here I need to use the underscore sum of factors. Yeah, so now one more function is created. Now this function is going to give me the sum of factors. Okay, similarly we can create a function for, let's say, prime numbers. So let's say I create a function here, prime number. Now this function is going to check if a number is a prime number or not. Now inside a function you can call other function. So what I'm going to do is, now I'm going to call this count factors function. Now the problem with count factor functions is it is printing the count of the factors, but it is not returning any value. Okay, so now what is the benefit of returning a value? The benefit of returning a value is that you can save it in a variable, or you can print its value. So now I'm going to here call this count factor function, and I'm going to pass this now. Now what will happen? Now this count factor function will be called, and it is going to return the value C, the count of factors. Okay, and then I'm saving that value in another variable C. Now what I need to check, I need to add these same conditions, like if C equal to 1, then it's a prime number, otherwise it's not. Okay, so let me uncomment this line. So now it's simple. Okay, let me use some indignation here also. Yeah, so this way I just simply created a function for prime numbers. Similarly, you can create a function for perfect number also. Okay, in perfect number you need to simply call another function, uh, that is the sum of factors, and in sum of factors you need to in sum of factors also you need to return this as well. Okay, and here now you can add the condition, if sum is equal to num, then it's a perfect number, then it's a perfect number. Okay, okay, so this way we can create here. Also here I need to write here s equal, because I'm checking the sum. Okay, so I created a function to check prime numbers. Now what you can do, you can try by yourself. You can check all the numbers 1 till 100, all the prime numbers. Okay, and you can only print the true numbers, like only prime numbers. Similarly, you can try print. Okay, I need to change the name also here, perfect number. Okay, so you can check like if a number is a perfect number, like 1 till 1000, you can check all for all the numbers, like all the perfect numbers. You can find out all the prime numbers, though there is only 3 or 4 perfect numbers 1 till 1000, like 28, 496 and 6 only, like 3 numbers are perfect number only. But you can still try, like 1 till 1000 you can try, and you can find out all the perfect numbers 1 till 100. Just practice, practice and practice this much code by yourself, and we'll see you in the next session. So just stay tuned. If you really like the session, then just stay tuned. Okay, thank you.